So CM Punk is the new world heavyweight champion. He surprised
Yes.
a lot of us, including myself. I didn't think that they were going to make Saturday Night's Main Event his crowning achievement, but
Same
I
here.
guess the Seth Rollins thing makes us all pivot and change up things, right? And we saw a couple of those pivots this week, I believe, right? Because I don't know what the plans were originally for Logan Paul and what we saw on Monday Night Raw, him kind of joining the Vision. I don't know if it's an official join yet, but joining the Vision at the end of Monday Night Raw.
How's that going to work, though? He shows up like once every 3 months, it feels like.
Well, I mean, I guess, a lot of people were talking about what if Brock Lesnar joined the Vision? What would be the difference?
That's okay. That's valid. That's a valid point because he shows up just as often as Logan Paul. Touche. I will give you that. To me, I feel like if you're going to have this faction, a lot like this group together, if you're throwing Logan Paul in the mix or even a Brock Lesnar, as you just kind of alluded to, I would like to see them there on a regular basis because to me, I feel like when it's like you got guys and girls that they're there, but they're not always there. I feel like if you're there all together, it gives that group a little more juice. Like the NWO wasn't the NWO until everybody was there, together. Like obviously the main three, of Hall, Nash, and Hogan. You know what I mean? Like you can't have like, all right, well Hogan's gonna go do movies for a while, so we're just gonna have Hall and Nash for a while. Like it didn't work that way. Like they were actually all there together. So to me, having the whole group together makes more sense. I guess we'll just have to see how it all unfolds.
With CM Punk as the world heavyweight champion, I know obviously we got lots of dream matches and where we're going to go down the line at WrestleMania, this, that, and the other. But just currently with Survivor Series on the horizon and the Saturday Night's Main Event, the John Cena one on the horizon, it's the two PLEs, as we would say, left this year, and the Royal Rumble obviously after that. What is, I guess, who do you see his first defense against? And do you see him leading a War Games team? I mean, I guess I'm imagining that's where we're coming with like the Vision and the War Games. Like what is CM Punk's real purpose going forward? What kind of people is he going to lead? What kind of people is he going to face?
I'm gonna jump the first that kind of the middle end of that question. I'm gonna start with the War Games thing. I think that's definitely going to happen. I mean, it's building that way where you're gonna have Logan Paul, you're gonna have obviously the Bronze, and then maybe Brock Lesnar versus CM Punk, Jey Uso. I would assume like LA Knight might be in there somewhere because LA Knight's always in that picture somewhere. And then I guess a wrestler to be named later, maybe like an Ilya Dragunov. Somehow somebody like that gets in there. But opponent wise, I mean, I just said it. I think LA Knight. I mean, I know that's the easy answer, but it's the right answer because honestly, LA Knight should be the champion right now. And I'm not dissing on CM Punk. I am very happy that he is the champion. It's nice to not have nothing against Jey Uso either. I kind of like that they went in that direction. But at the same time, if you're going to have Jey Uso not win, why couldn't it be LA Knight? Because LA Knight to me is that guy right now where he's kind of like, in a way, he's almost like a Dan Marino type kind of guy. Dan Marino, former great NFL player, never,
Yes.
he got a taste, in the Super Bowl, never won. And he was a great player. LA Knight's a great player, great wrestler, so to speak. And he's just not gotten his taste of that heavyweight championship. And I think for me, that's who I would say is the most logical, but it wouldn't surprise me if somebody like a Gunther comes back, something along those lines as an opponent. Maybe he gives a chance to somebody that we're not even talking about. Maybe a Carmelo Hayes out of the blue gets it. Maybe he does something. And I
think this is a good example of we all wanted CM Punk to win, and I wanted CM Punk to win, I guess, at SummerSlam, and it was such a coronation, and then obviously they pulled the rug and had such a great story. And this is one of those times where we have to make the unfortunate pivot. I don't want to say that CM Punk because it just started. I don't want to say, this is reminiscent of COVID times and Drew McIntyre's rise to the top. That unfortunately, when it came at like the worst time because it came during that WrestleMania when they had the pivot and you're like, oh, now I'm the champion. I got all this way and I have to do it like this. And that's what I feel like so far, right? We got Saturday's Main Event that went up against. And listen, this isn't just coming from me, who literally, I think it's probably the first time ever because Raw, SmackDown, me and you, we can throw those away all the time because, there's so many of them when there's things that are more important. We got concert tickets, we got sports tickets, we got something else to do. Those are happening. But we're like a card was on where essentially every match was for the championship and a new champion, world heavyweight, was going to be crowned. And I literally couldn't be anywhere near that when it comes to where importance of where I was of watching television that night, right? I mean, I've dissed you a few times, and I probably still would hold it to like if you're going to miss WrestleMania for something. But this was a time where realistically I would have missed WrestleMania for this. Because of how important the sporting event that I was watching that night was.
Well, let's be honest. If things went a certain way, you could have made it, but you could have been up there for a World Series Blue Jays Game 7 because I mean I know you would have. I know you wanted to go to that game really bad.
The point is I wasn't watching Saturday's Main. I did actually catch Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre live because it happened from at 7 to 7:30. The game didn't start till 8. So I was even risking skipping some pregame because I was like, man, I really want to watch this pregame even. But I missed the pregame, a little of it at least, to watch that match live.
I will tell you though, the 7 o'clock start time worked out really well for me personally. And specifically my oldest daughter, because her and I got to actually watch the entire event from start to finish together. So she got her first taste of like watching it like live. So I was obviously keeping tabs on baseball because I wanted to see the Blue Jays win. Obviously not as much as you, but I just wanted to see them win. But I got to watch it from 7 o'clock till 9 and change, I think it was. It was only like two and a quarter hours, something like that. It wasn't too bad.
And we'll talk in a minute because you talk about obviously that worked for you. Personally, I don't understand. Obviously, if you're having such a short card, why it started 8 o'clock, especially too when it's not even in the Eastern time zone. So it makes it start at 4. I think it was like 5 o'clock local time. I didn't really understand what the need for that was.
They didn't want to go up against head to head against World Series like when it's later stages of the game.
Is that what you think? Because I mean, I don't know.
That would be my theory. That would make the most sense because it's like. They know Game 7 could possibly.
I know what they've been doing with the Monday Night Football thing that we saw, but they kind of abandoned the whole 7 o'clock start to try to, so that people can join in.
I think they want to get their shit in, so to speak, and then people that really want to watch, say seventh inning on for the baseball, that's great, or for the football game. Like that would be the most logical thinking, at least from the WWE perspective. And you know what? I enjoyed it. I know maybe not everybody did because I know you didn't. I mean, obviously you had your.
Yes, I watched this. I watched this past Saturday night into late Sunday. Yes,
that's how I normally do it with a lot of these other shows that like AEW. It's impossible for me because they end at midnight. And I'm like, I ain't staying up till midnight to watch it. It just I'll watch it the next day. I'll catch clips. I'll do this and that. So for me, it was nice. For me, my daughter, my oldest daughter is into wrestling now. I got one of my kids at least in it. So it's like getting her to watch a full show with me was fun. It was a great experience. And I think there's a lot of young fans that, we got to think about the future fans. Think it was good.
I'm going to say, because this whole segment about the starting time in the World Series all started with a negative because obviously I think, granted, yes, it worked out for you, particularly that night. But CM Punk won the World Heavyweight Championship on a night where, like I said, I started saying it's important to me, but at the end of the day, regardless of if I'm a fan of a team that was playing in the World Series, the most watched World MLB game since 1991, right? So the most watched Major League Baseball game since 1991. And obviously, going up against Game 7 of the World Series is going to be tough, but to go up against a game in which had such juggernaut ratings, and right, we all know that WWE fans are not just in the United States, so it's not just, this was a global, obviously, I don't know what percentage of the Canadian audience of wrestling fans were watching Saturday's Main Event live, but to go up against
Toronto, probably nothing.
Yeah. So to go up against that and to become the World Heavyweight Champion for the first time, and this again wasn't in Chicago, it was like his hometown, it's in Salt Lake City, a place in which we saw on SmackDown, but again, understandable because it was Halloween night, baseball's on, it's just, there was a lot of things against it. So the lowest watched SmackDown in a long time, going into I would just venture to say, and this is not even knowing the numbers, but also knowing the fact that since the start of this run, this is the first one not on actual television like NBC. So you go from being on a channel which is like the American Olympic Network. So literally the most the channel that literally everyone has the most. Every country probably has a channel that is their go-to channel, that is the lowest on the dial, that is the main network, which if the presidents die or the world is on fire, that's the network you're going to go to. And they went from going on that network to being on a streaming service. So I'm going to guess with that alone, let alone the World Series,
the numbers weren't great.
The numbers, he was not going to be on the biggest Saturday Night's Main Event of all time, right?
Which
So
is unfortunate because CM Punk is a major star in the business.
And then he goes into Monday Night Raw. Monday Night Raw is in, I think they said it was the first time ever that it was in the Albuquerque area. I thought it was in the past, but I guess not. They've been everywhere. This is a place like Salt Lake City, how they've never had a PLE or a televised, like Saturday Night's Main Event ever before. Well,
Yeah.
Rio Rancho Event Center, right outside of Albuquerque, outside in the desert somewhere, hosted Monday Night Raw, his first Monday Night Raw where he was champion. I think there was like 6,000. It was a sold out crowd, but it was, if you saw the arena, it was as small as, very small. WWE's weirdly enough been doing some really small arenas lately, but
so you know what that means? Come to Syracuse for a Raw. How about that?
But I noticed when he came out at the start of Monday Night Raw, the crowd was cheering for sure, but because it wasn't the United Center, like the night he made his return for AEW, it wasn't deafening. I mean, through the TV, it did not come through.
It's impossible for that to be planned because this was a pivot. So it wasn't like they were going to
it's like COVID. It's impossible to plan, but it's unfortunate. And now here we are going into a War Games that we're like just piecing together good guys versus bad guys.
I'm going to play devil's advocate. If they book it out, like the Monday Night Raw after Saturday Night's Main Event, but they booked it months in advance and it's in Chicago, you're like, well, something big's going to happen with CM Punk. They kind of tipped their hand there. You know what I mean? Like that's why, the whole pivot thing, it is what it is. To me, I like the fact that they're going to these small arenas. I think it's nice. I think it's good because that gives us a chance to get a show here that's not a live event.
And I'm not saying anything negative in that sense. I'm just saying it just seems to be an unfortunate set of circumstances that CM Punk, he won the world title in front of 60,000 plus, 65, 70,000 plus fans on a Saturday night in New York City at SummerSlam and got the rug pulled out from him. It was entertaining nonetheless. And then gets the title back because Seth Rollins is out an injury for legitimate reasons. He wins it on a Saturday Night's Main Event that goes up against things that are way more watched.
They had to pivot, and that's the best pivot they can come up with. And I have to give WWE some credit for that. I know maybe the logistics of it, where it's like, okay, it wasn't in front of 60,000 and this and that and the whole other thing.
Do you think this is going to, though, taint his run that we don't like because he's now the World Heavyweight Champion? And yes, we have some dream matches like AJ Styles on tap, which we hope. But there's not. Like you said, we gotta think about who his next opponents are, and there's not such a this doesn't feel like Cody Rhodes the night after WrestleMania 40. It doesn't. It doesn't feel like this is it. This is what we waited.
No, because
like all right, we did it. He's champ.
It's different because it wasn't organic. It didn't really happen like naturally in a storyline. Like it's like. Mm-hmm. Seth wins the crown jewel, gets hurt, and that's it. And that's like, oh.
It would have happened organically, obviously, if he won the main event of WrestleMania and became the world champion. And then showed up the night after WrestleMania 40, yes.
This is what we call a typical pivot because of injury. And it's, you know what? WWE is going to keep moving. The machine's going to keep moving. And you know what? I'm happy for CM Punk to get this run anyways because I honestly thought, I think if we go back into the tape, so to speak, I think I picked Jey Uso. So I was surprised that
I picked Jey Uso as well because of the fact that I thought that Jey Uso was going to hold the belt for a little bit longer while we tried to get this World Heavyweight title picture a little hotter. That's all.
I know, and the thing with CM Punk is it is unfortunate because you are right. Like he did win it for 3 minutes, in front of all those people. I think you were there because you're there.
I was, yeah.
I forget. I just assume that you're at the shows because you go to most of them anyways. But I get that point. But that's the way they booked it, and that's the way things kind of fell. And God's honest truth, given all those circumstances, I'm kind of glad LA Knight didn't win the championship under these circumstances. I kind of want to see LA Knight win a championship, the main championship in front of a bigger crowd. So, unfortunately, sucks for CM Punk. Maybe good for LA Knight later because I'm gonna keep banging that drum for LA Knight until he gets that championship because he's well deserved. He's well deserving of it. The fans want it. We just got to make it happen sooner rather than later.
You talk about Jey Uso joining CM Punk's War Games team. Obviously, after the match was over, Jey Uso was pretty distraught. He put out, I think, a social media post essentially saying, fans, you got what you want. And then like a emoji where he's flipping off CM Punk. I believe that was the exact case. He was not happy, obviously, and essentially just felt like, yeah, that you got what you want, guys. I lost. You didn't want me. Every time, Gunther, you wanted Gunther. Even though you all cheer for me and you yeet, at the same time, he hears the rumors. He hears the people being like, Jey Uso is not a company carrying champion. You know what I mean? He's Lex Luger 1994. He's a main eventer, but we don't want him to be that much of a main eventer. And he was a little upset about it. You talked about Jey Uso potentially joining this team. Could we see, though, CM Punk and Jey Uso maybe again using some of this fuel for a rematch? And or do you think that leads over his kind of disdain to just losing to CM Punk, kind of would make an issue with him joining the CM Punk War Games team?
I think it's just the heat of the moment. That whole thing on social media. That's what WWE's very calculated in how their superstars, their talent uses social media. They're going to use it to push some sort of storyline. But I still think at the end of the day, the end game is they gotta go after the bronze. Like they just have to. Like they gotta stick together as a unified front. And unfortunately, I think they're gonna have to put the BS aside. They gotta find a team, because I think what's happening here is I think the Vision is gonna face somebody with CM Punk and whoever they pick. I think it's gonna be a War Games thing. I really see that happening. Do you think maybe AJ Styles gets in there? Do you think somebody like that?
I'm not a. I mean, I do see what you're saying with like Jey Uso, and Jey Uso did come to the aid of CM Punk after the whole Logan Paul thing.
That's what I mean.
Ended on Monday Night Raw. I guess here's another thing we talk about pivots, right? And this is why we got rid of those themed pay-per-views a long time ago, because the War Games thing came out in Boston in 2022, and it got a lot of hype, and it came back in 2023. 2024, and they kept pushing the envelope of announcing War Games and getting essentially what they could get out of it ahead of time. We've had obviously the Seth Rollins injury lately, and that turned into a situation that I can tell you that I'm pretty much certain. You want to talk about pivots? If War Games wasn't announced for Survivor Series ahead of time, but it maybe was like thought about as a potential, let's say we haven't announced it yet, what would be nice is now they wouldn't have it. They'd probably say, nope, we don't have it. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. Now they have to have it, right? It's like what we talked about with WrestleMania, right? They got to keep pushing out these commercials. We already booked the venue. We've already paid the deposit. We're already going. Like, we have to sell these tickets. We can't back out. You know what I mean? So that's the thing with War Games. We just have to make it happen, whether it makes sense or not.
Just sitting there thinking about War Games and whatnot, that would be a perfect opportunity for CM Punk, Jey Uso, and then throw Roman Reigns in there. Roman Reigns could be part of that as well. I mean, given we'll see how things turn out there, because Roman's obviously he doesn't show up as often as he used to.
Maybe a Roman, Jimmy J, and CM Punk team.
Maybe, and
I think that would be all right because of the fact that you remember, obviously, when CM Punk was in his first War Games last year, they had the whole Roman CM Punk thing where like CM Punk went to go out and Roman Reigns like held him back. So,
and then they could play that whole thing with Paul Heyman too on the other side. You know what I mean?
Think, if you want to make the CM Punk championship work, and I'll end it right here, I think we alluded to at the end of this segment the probably best solution to kind of make some intrigue. It's not LA Knight right now. It's not AJ Styles. It's not a rematch with Jey Uso. I think it's Roman Reigns. I don't know when that's going to happen, but I think CM Punk versus Roman Reigns for this championship, which is obviously not the Cody Rhodes championship, so it kind of puts the Roman Reigns rub on this championship.
I'm going to put a bow on this with one last thing. Remember how CM Punk, the whole favor thing, like that you owe, he was owed something, and with the whole Roman Reigns. What if CM Punk, Roman Reigns joins and says, "You owe me a championship for me joining your team." Oh, there you go.
There you go.